Welcome, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our session today, which is focusing on empowering your business with Copilot. My name is Gemma McAnally, and I'm joined today by my colleague, Sean Fitzsimmons. And together, we're going to talk to you about how Copilot is helping businesses work smarter whilst focusing in on how you can ensure your business and your business data is secure whilst availing of the Copilot solution. So our agenda for today, we're going to look at what the opportunity is for you in the SME space and why now, why is AI so important? Sean's going to cover some of the security and governance in the AI landscape. It's very much focused on getting your foundations AI ready, making sure that you're safe and secure as you and your business starts to adopt Copilot and AI solutions. Sean will also be taking you through a live demo of some Copilot features across the Microsoft 365 stack. And throughout the presentation today, we'll be talking about how Xperience can help you. We'll also have a live Q&A at the end, but if you've got any questions during this, please feel free to put them into the chat and we'll try and respond either during the session or at the end on the live Q&A. So just a little bit about Xperience. We now have a team of over 250 people. We're situated across 6 office locations and we service 4 key solutions areas. They primarily are business applications, which is your CRM and your ERP solutions, cloud and managed IT, and cybersecurity. We very much pride ourselves in being able to provide digital solutions which are designed around your business needs and your operations. And by utilising these 4 key solution areas, our goal is to help you really unlock your business's full potential and provide you with the freedom to be much more productive and focus on the important things within your business. We're here to create digital solutions with the power to improve and protect your business, both now and in the future. And Copilot is really one of those things. So we want to talk to you today about how you can really help use Copilot within your business and some of the key sort of takeaways, things that you should be doing, things that you should be looking at. But let's start off with a little bit of history and look at the AI transformation landscape and where it has come over the last number of years. So AI really is shifting business today. If we think about the last sort of large technology shift that we have, it was during COVID, whenever we were looking at migrating everybody into Teams, the likes of Zoom, and into a very much a remote working environment. That at the time impacted everybody, every process, every organization, and every industry. However, as we have evolved, we've started to move into more hybrid working scenarios. More different industries have gone back to work, different organizations have changed, so it hasn't had that lasting impact. Whereas if we look at AI, it is absolutely transforming every single individual, every process, every organization, and it's touching every single industry out there. So it's having a huge impact across these 4 areas and will continue to do so. If we look at the opportunities to transform by using AI, there really is so much opportunity within these 4 areas. It's there really to help enrich employees' experience. Think about, using it within Outlook to help construct emails. Think of how it can help you with accessing and retrieving information, some of the things that Sean's going to walk you through as well. It's also very much helping us reinvent our customer engagement. Think about how powerful all of this information is that we have about our customers and how we can start to use that to actually help give them a better engagement and help the business then actually progress and transform. It's also reshaping business processes. You may or may not have heard the term agents. Again, we'll be touching on that later. But agents, think of them as apps within your business. Their Copilot apps and agents are very much available to help you think about how you're processing within your business and things that you can actually start to automate to make you much more efficient and also to back to that, help your customers and help your employees as well. And it's really helping organizations now bend that curve on innovation. So it's helping us move faster and actually innovate our businesses and the way that we work today, impacting, as I say, on everybody in the business and all of your customers as well, touching on your processes and helping you transform and move forward. Now, if we look at how AI has actually evolved over the last number of years, if you think about your mobile phone, it took 16 years for mobile phones, for the technology to expand enough to reach 100 million users. It took the likes of Facebook 4.5 years to reach 100 million users. It took ChatGPT 2 months to reach 100 million users. So this is how fast the AI landscape is moving, and this is how fast technology is moving as well. And Microsoft with Copilot have ensured that they are keeping up with this fast moving change. There are 300 plus product updates constantly happening around Copilot. We're seeing 2 times the speed and nearly 3 times the quality of the information and the retrieval coming from solutions like Copilot. So the pace of change is absolutely phenomenal. And Microsoft carried out a work trend index back in 2024. And this was to really look at how AI leaders and businesses are adopting to AI, to things like Copilot, to ChatGPT, and how they're using it within their businesses. And the results of this were absolutely fascinating, and it really has proven that AI has absolutely come to work. 75% of people are already using AI at work, and 80% of SMB users are also already bringing their own AI tools to work. Now, we'll be touching on this in Sean's session when we're looking at security, because we have to be very careful in terms of that. But the generation of bring your own AI to work has absolutely formed. And it's not just for Gen Z. As the results show, every individual right across the working group, across every age group, is adopting AI and bringing their own technology into work. Now, this information and the data really highlights 2 key things. One, it highlights that people are bringing AI into work to help them in their day-to-day roles, maybe to help them with increasing workloads, or just to be much more efficient and help them get through things quicker, or to give that creative spark, which we all know it's really good for. But also what this is showing is that they're bringing AI into work because their organization lacks a vision and a plan for AI. And again, one of the things we're going to talk about today is how you help your business and then your employees, how you create that vision, that strategy, so everybody is aware of your organization and where it's going when it comes to AI, and they're bringing AI into work in a safe and secure manner. So when in these results, 79% of business leaders said that AI was imperative to stay competitive. And we're going to talk about some of the real use case scenarios and hopefully allow you to see exactly why it's important and how it can help you in your business. But a surprising 60% back on looking at that data said that their organization lacks a plan and a vision on how to implement it. And I think this is where we're really seeing businesses struggle. They don't know how to use it within their organization. So today we're going to touch on a few key strategies that you could use to help with your AI adoption. And 59% of those that were surveyed sort of worried about quantifying the productivity gains of AI. So how do they make sure it's actually impacting, it's landing, and they're getting a return on investment in it? And again, that's some of the things that we'll touch on today. So taking those 3 key statistics, let's look at driving business value with Microsoft 365 Copilot, some of the things that you can start to leverage. If we look at the Microsoft 365 Copilot advantage, you really need to think of Copilot and AI as your assistant at work. It's there to assist, to help, not to take over, but very much to help you in the day-to-day, get things done quicker, maybe take some of that thinking away for you, or just nothing worse than sitting looking at a blank page, just to get you started. So Microsoft 365 Copilot is integrated in the tools that you use every single day. So it's really important that you start to empower your users and help showcase where 365 is actually available. You can use it with inside Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Sean's going to be touching on some of those things later in the session. You also have it very much enabled inside Outlook and Teams. It's fantastic for email generation. It's great at summarizing your inbox if you've been away or you've missed things, helping you prioritize key tasks, and it's absolutely fantastic for recording Teams meetings. And think back to that, if you're recording meetings with your customers, the wealth of information that is building up and how that can really help you and then in turn help your customers. The other thing as well about Copilot is it really does understand your work context. It's gathering signals all the time from Microsoft Graph to helping really personalize the responses for you. So when I started using Copilot Copilot, it did give me quite sort of stock corporate answers. It was quite cold. And as I've grown with it and as I've been asking it, it now knows how I write my emails. It knows how I like the tone to come across. It's much softer. And it actually does now very much give me answers and write emails in the tone that I like them to be, and using wording that I use regularly. So it's growing and adapting with me, which is one of the key things with it. So the more you use this, the more it's going to really start to adapt to your way of working, your language, your tone, and how you come across. You also need to think about it how it starts to extend your business data. Copilot has 1,400 pre-built connectors to other systems and line of business applications. So I would really encourage everybody to look at some of the Copilot connectors that are available. Look at the business applications that you use day and daily, and what other tools and technology can you be utilizing Copilot in to really help enhance your systems, enhance your day-to-day operations, and make your employees much more efficient. We'd be more than happy to help you with this and look at some of the connectors that are available with the systems that you have in your business. You can also very much customize Copilot to make your own. We've touched on agents. Agents, think about them as applications, little apps for your business. And it's really important to take a step back and think about, where could I maybe introduce a single process or do something that would help everybody? There's a couple of different licensing options for Copilot. You can license all of your users, giving them access to the integrated tools, and Copilot within Word, Excel, etc. Or you could create an agent which sits on a specific set of data and is accessible then to all of your staff without having to give them all individual Copilot licensing. But these agents can be incredibly impactful. Think of it as, for example, if you had a Copilot agent sitting on top of, say you had a HR SharePoint or all of your HR data in a central pool. You could create an agent that could sit on top of that and actually allow your employees to ask questions. What is our time off policy? Ask information on, sickness policy, etc. And then that can look at that particular data set and bring that information back. Save them asking the information from a HR team member or asking a colleague and maybe not getting the right piece of information. So think of agents where it can help with the day-to-day business processes. Security is incredibly important, and Sean's going to be touching on that, but is that we end up in this boom of bringing your AI into work and people potentially using ChatGPT, it becomes incredibly important to make sure that you've got the security and governance and all of that compliance piece at the absolute foundations, and Sean will be talking to that shortly. And also then, how do we look to measure the AI impact? There are many tools within the Copilot suite to help you drive adoption. There are links that we can provide you with to Copilot learning academies. There's labs. There's really great dashboards within the Copilot tooling that can help you see how it's been adopted across your business. But we would really encourage you to look at piloting it within your business, but make sure that people within the pilot are across different parts of the business, but they're also then equipped with the tools to help them understand what Copilot can do and see it as more than just a tool to ask questions of, but actually give them that full visibility of the power of the solution by accessing the Learning Academy and some of the Copilot labs that are available. And we can provide you with access to that. There's such a wealth of resources there right at your fingertips from the team at Microsoft. And in terms of unlocking the value with Copilot, we really would encourage you to start thinking about Copilot and your business. Think of all of your different departments as rooms of the house. So split them all up in terms of, right, have you got more people in the marketing department, in the HR, maybe in finance, and start to look at how Copilot impacts on that specific area. Inside the Copilot labs available from Microsoft and the Academy, there are some real use cases specifically focused on HR, marketing, if you've got customer service teams, if you've got sales team members in your commercial team, there are some fantastic assets that are available that specifically look at how how Copilot can help within each of those functions. But we would encourage you, as I say, to get pilot groups set up that involve people from each of these, but also take it to the next layer. Start looking at the business processes. The example we gave there was in HR. What are the business processes that we can potentially use either Copilot to help with or a Copilot agent to help with, that then gives every employee access to time-saving tools that are efficient and that are accurate as well. In terms of the transformation opportunity, there was a technology report conducted, and it is projected that the total economic impact of Microsoft 365 Copilot in the SMB space is going to be significant. The report suggests that 6% increase in net revenue and faster time to market will be seen by those organisations who adopt Copilot, as well as 20% reduction in operating costs and a really huge 61% increase in employee satisfaction. So what we're going to show you today is some of the scenarios where you can really help your employees on that satisfaction piece. You could look at those business processes to reduce operating costs, and then ultimately it can help you hopefully see that 6% increase in revenue and faster time to market by allowing you to innovate throughout the business. I'm going to pass over to Sean now, who's going to talk about the security and compliance piece. Security and governance very much foundational to what you need to be thinking about in Copilot, and just keep that sort of example in mind in terms of your employees are now bringing AI into work. So how do you make sure that your business is secure and robust in this new digital AI landscape? Sean?
Thank you very much, Gemma. Yes, so just to go over that point again, the governance element of data usage within a business is one of the most paramount elements that we discuss. It's also the most overlooked, not being one of the kind of typically fun and flashy elements of data usage within a business. Governance does tend to get set to the wayside a little bit by most users within an organization, but it is intrinsic and is really incredibly important to put into place before having any form of AI project go in. Now, one of the kind of really key and important parts to that is the differentiation between using Copilot 365 versus Copilot Web or ChatGPT or one of the other AIs that people are bringing to work because of not having a clear plan in place for implementing AI within the business. So I just want to go over a few kind of key points on the security and governance element here. So one of the kind of key differentiators between the Copilot 365 and other AI tools within the space is that a lot of people look at Microsoft 365 as a trusted element already, and so using Copilot within that space is a very obvious kind of move over for people who are wanting to adopt AI. The reason for that is as soon as you start using Copilot 365 compared to the kind of web variant or other AIs is that you can be safe in the knowledge that your data is secure both at rest and in transit. So it's fully encrypted both when you aren't using it as well as when you're putting chat messages through and it's pulling back data for you. On top of that element, because it is entirely stored within your tenant, you have complete control over your data. Your data, when using 365, doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't leave your tenant at all. It's kept completely within there. So wherever your regional settings are, whether your data is currently stored, it stays within that area. Using 365 Copilot as well, your data is not used to train or enrich the foundation model. So the foundation model is essentially Copilot as a whole and how intelligent it is and how responsive it is as a whole. Whilst you use 365 Copilot, it will train and enrich your model. So your tenant's model that is stored within your tenant, and any agents that you use as part of 365, the agents that Gemma mentioned earlier, those train within the agent as well. So none of your data is then being sent off to a Microsoft server outside of your tenant elements to then make the model as a whole smarter. and you're protected against AI security and copyright risks. So there's information that we can provide based off of the copyright commitment from Microsoft, but essentially you're not running a risk of using anyone else's data and infringing on a copyright, but then also no one else is at risk of accidentally stealing yours. So as part of that, the kind of key concerns that people are running into or worrying about, things that we have seen ourselves as well in our kind of entry elements into looking at AI, things that we've seen ourselves in terms of our own usage as well. Where we've kind of had to get a bit smarter with these sorts of things, is that 80% of leaders cited leakage of sensitive data as their main concern. Now, what data oversharing, data leakage is essentially where Copilot or an AI of any kind is picking up on sensitive data that has been shared to someone who does not need that sensitive data. Data leaks along the same vein is where people are essentially maybe putting a sensitive document into a SharePoint location that is not sensitive. And as soon as you start doing that, that data then becomes at risk of being pulled where it shouldn't. There is also the identification of risky AI use. So 41% of security leaders cited that the identification of risky users based on queries into AI was one of the top AI controls they want to implement. And that is something that there are policies and things that you can put in place that would assist in both detecting and also stopping, potentially on an automated basis, certain kind of key words or risky phrases or certain messages that people might put in where they're potentially trying to mine for data that they really shouldn't have access to. Think about things like trying to ask an AI to pull back someone else's salary, because those can be stored, again, in those HR documents that we referenced earlier, and can be very easy to pick up on if these controls are not properly put in place and thought about. And the other one is the AI governance and risk visibility. So 84% want to feel more confident about managing and discovering data input into AI apps and tools. And again, this kind of comes in with the agent element, giving it specific pieces of information to look at, but then also being able to track that back to its source. What information is actually making up this piece of information that we're using as a knowledge base to create this agent, but also as well in the kind of broader sense in terms of looking at OneDrive or looking at shared data files and kind of being able to track back where those things come from and put proper role-based access or governance policies into place for those. So, to look at tools to secure and govern your Copilot usage, the main concerns that kind of get addressed through the security and governance elements are, we're looking at that oversharing element. So we want to be able to provide visibility into overshared content, remediate those excessive permissions, and prevent Copilot from processing those sensitive files. We want to protect against these data leakages. We want to look at data loss or insider risks, again, where people are trying to kind of plumb for data that they really shouldn't have access to. We also want to look at governing AI to use AI use, to meet regulations and policies, and those policies that we can put in place, both physically and systemically, to help kind of protect people from any kind of ethical violations, as it says there. And all of this is really encapsulated into one nice, neat place that we can use to kind of put in place these policies and these elements, which is Microsoft Purview. So what we've got here is just a very quick example of what Microsoft Purview can look like. Purview itself is a governance and security and governance tool. It's a portal essentially into many different management tools that can help you govern both outside of AI, but also very specifically inside of AI, which is what we're seeing here on the screen. This is the data security posture management for AI, where we can tell it to not allow things like Copilot to have access to anything that's labeled as a sensitive document. And this can also show us risk management for people trying to access data such as that. So what I want to do now is I'm just going to share my screen and go through a couple of the scenarios that Gemma kind of alluded to earlier. So up on the screen here, we've got 5 kind of key scenarios that we find to be kind of the entry level, leading up to a bit more of the intermediate level of things that you can use Copilot for. So today I'm really going to focus on points 1, 2, and a little bit on 5 there. But I will talk about points 3 and 4, the Copilot within Teams and the Copilot agents, as we go through looking at some of the elements that I'm going to show you very shortly. So here we go. So what I've got here is I'm just showing my screen on the Copilot web chat. And you can see here at the top, just as a very brief, quick discussion, we've got the work and we've got the web tabs. Now, what I mentioned earlier with the work and the web is that the web is very much a generic AI tool, a bit like ChatGPT. So I'm going to keep it to work because this is what keeps it within our tenant and keeps our data nice and safe. So what that first scenario there that I mentioned was information gathering and prompting. So one of the things that I wanted to kind of really showcase was how you can pull back information just based on a few kind of key wording schemes through Copilot, and where you can then leverage that going forward. So what I'm going to ask it to do here very quickly is I want to say, please provide the key features, benefits, top 5 use case scenarios, and pricing for Microsoft Copilot. So what you'll see here is Copilot's now going to go away and it's going to search for things. And where I mentioned prompts, it's this element that prompting is really key into using use case scenarios of AI, is the specific wording and elements that you would want to use to really give it some key concepts and ideas about exactly what you're looking for. So what it's then done is, if I scroll up, is we've now got our key features here. So it's gone through and it's listed these in bullet point format, and looking at some of those really kind of important elements that are really quick and easy to use in Copilot. And you can see here as well, we've got a numbering system here at the bottom where it's actually also going to be citing its references so that you can check it back. Now, with any AI generated content, the first thing I wanted to say very quickly is that AI generated content is not always right. So it is best to check these things, especially in early adopter usage of Copilot, any kind of flagships that are going in. Those initial kind of super users will need to check everything that comes out of it at first. But what we can see is it's returned exactly what I've asked it for. We've got the key features in a section. We've got the top benefits in a section. Here's my top 5 use case scenarios, and it's given me the pricing as of 2025. Has given it to me in dollars, but I can get it to convert that. Any further questions that I ask it are within the context of what I've just asked it as well. So here we've got how to roll out Copilot across my team, provide case studies for Copilot in use. And what it will do is it will go back and it will trawl through information, and it will try and look for exactly what I've asked it for to return. Now, say for instance that I actually wanted to provide this internally as a PowerPoint presentation for my key stakeholders to try and get Copilot into the business. What I can do is I can actually ask it in here to generate a PowerPoint presentation for me, but that one would actually be a bit boring and bland. It would essentially pick up what I've got here and put it into a presentation. However, if I wanted to put something in that was a bit more branded, a bit nicer to look at, and what I'm going to do here is actually I'm going to copy what I've used as the prompt, and I'm going to jump over here into PowerPoint where I've got a file that I've uploaded, which is actually our internal template here. And I'm going to use this template as a basis to design a presentation. So what I can do now that I've got Copilot, a Copilot license, I've got a little Copilot section here where I can start talking to Copilot. I can ask it to give me a summary of this presentation, if this was an already built one. I can tell it to look at certain images and extract text, but what I'm going to do in this scenario is I'm actually just going to create a brand new presentation from this template file. So I'm going to click create presentation there, and then I'm going to paste in what I've just copied from my prompting there. So you can see it says create a presentation about, I'm just going to take out that. So I'm going to say key features, benefits, top 5 use case scenarios and pricing for Copilot. I'll hit send and it will go through and it will generate a file. Now I've done this already, so I'm going to show you the one I made earlier. So this is the one that I've made earlier, and this file has not been touched by me in any way after generating it in the exact way that I've just shown you. To give you a quick look through, and also to showcase the fact that AI is not going to kind of do everything for you as well, and that you need to check things. I'm going to show you through some of these slides. So it's gone through and it's added in an agenda for me. It's created subsections for each of those agendas. So it's done all this by itself. It's even added some reference images. So these weren't in the template at all. Some of those reference images are slightly strange in the fact that it's put in some food there for some reason. And some of the slides are a bit bland, like this one here, which just says AI-driven productivity enhancements. But the crux of it is that it's generated something that is a starting point. And to, again, double back to mention something that Gemma spoke about earlier, is that rather than looking at this blank screen, having that writer's block, wondering where to go with it, you can ask Copilot to make a really good start for you. And then from there, you can make some small tweaks and changes, obviously move around that picture of food and put in some information in some of these kind of more bland slides, just making sure as well that the fonts and the colors match your scheme that you've given it. And then in a fraction of the time, you have a fully workable PowerPoint presentation that you can then use. That in of itself is a massive efficiency gain. You're taking something that could take maybe 2-3 hours down to, say, 15 to 30 minutes. Just to showcase then, again, very quickly, we're going to go over to Word here, where again, I have a Word template. What I'm going to essentially do is turn the kind of summarization of that PowerPoint slide into a bit more of a written out documentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the link for that PowerPoint. I'm going to go into Copilot in Word now, where I've opened up a template here again. I am going to ask it to write out a detailed and based on the summary information in this PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to put the link. Now what it's done there is, because that link is in my OneDrive, it's automatically picked it up as a file that I am the owner of and placed it in there as an attachment that we can take a look at. So I'm then going to hit generate. And again, what this is going to do is it's going to do something very, very kind of basic, but it's still giving us a really nice starting point. You can see there it's going through and generating that file. But again, it's something that we'll need to go through, check on, make sure that it fits with both obviously the branding usage that we wanted to put in, that it fits with the narrative that we wanted to conclude with, and also obviously make any tweaks and changes that we may need to make. Now this is something that in both areas I've used quite a lot in my role, and it does save a considerable amount of time in terms of trying to generate these documents. Now, as I say, there are other use case scenarios with Copilot. In terms of Copilot within Teams, we can make use of this ability to summarize in terms of either a session that we attend in terms of in a meeting where it's recorded. Copilot can then take a look at that recording, and it uses this same logic and ability to then summarize the meeting that is had. It summarizes it into areas where we have key action points. It will also highlight things where you yourself are mentioned if it hears your name, and try to highlight those things to you. And it can do all of that as well without you attending the meeting at all. So one of the things that you can do is you can tell it to follow and track a meeting that you're not going to attend. It will prompt for the organizer to record the meeting, and as long as you've got that recording, it will go through and it will summarize the meeting for you, and it will give you any kind of key actions or follow-ups or any mentions of your name as well, even for that meeting that you didn't attend. Now with the agents, you get a similar look and feel to this web chat screen that I've showed you earlier. However, in this side screen navigation bar, you'll have agents under the All Agents tag, where you can use those individual agents for those specific use case scenarios. So Gemma again mentioned earlier that you could use it on a HR system, maybe a HR SharePoint, for tracking policy documentation, where a user could go into that agent, ask it a question about a specific policy document, and it would return information. Now, similarly, some of those other connectors that you can get for Copilot agents can offer information or offer connection into business applications. So there are connections for things like Business Central. You can connect it to a SQL server, and you can train that agent with knowledge on your business data to allow people to then ask it business case questions. For instance, we have people already starting to use this to examine contract documentation. We have people using it to highlight and assist with cross-sell or trends in specific products where that product information is knowledge for the Copilot agent. We have other people who use it as a knowledge base for help desk, where you might have it cover first level support tickets, even where you have common problems often solved either in triage or in that first line support very quickly and easily, that could then leave those people open to looking at the more difficult, more pressing issues that can't be solved very quickly and easily. Another thing that I also use this for very often is that fifth scenario of generating code, where Copilot can actually look through, it can generate JavaScript, it can generate Visual Basic. I use it a lot in the data analytics world for generating things like DAX, which is used in Power BI. And you can also get it to generate Power Query or mQuery. So another efficiency gain for developers. You still have to have that knowledge. Obviously, with it being AI generated, everything should be checked. And you'll have to have that knowledge, obviously, to be able to check it. But for all intents and purposes, it could take the generation of an extremely long script or set of processes and boil that down to a 5-minute or 10-minute task. Okay, so that's all the scenarios that I've got for you today. Obviously, with all of those, we can assist you in terms of helping you figure out which of those scenarios apply to you. We can assist you with trying to figure out how to implement those elements as well, and where they would fit in with other kind of data strategy elements. So I'd like to hand you back to Gemma here, who's going to close out for us.
Thanks so much, Sean. Thank you for taking us through those. As Sean mentioned, there are quite a lot of scenarios. We'd be more than happy to get some time with you if you want on a one-to-one basis to walk through sort of your use cases and give you a bit more insight in terms of maybe where it can apply within your organization. Just to wrap us up, wanted to take you through in terms of just sort of summarising our final slides here. Get this moving along for us. I just want to talk about some and wrap up on some of the key pieces that Sean has talked about there, and really some of the 3 essentials for Copilot success. So we've talked about leadership and how important it is to have that AI strategy. Make sure that people aren't bringing AI into work because they don't know what your policy is, they don't know what your strategy is. Make sure that that's clearly outlined right at the start, that you've got some clearly defined use cases, and that you've got a clear policy on bringing AI to work. Whilst ChatGPT is incredibly effective as a tool, you do have to consider that as people start to share information with that, unlike as Sean referenced with Copilot, that data is not protected. It is being shared with learning tools. So if they're uploading documentation that they shouldn't, it will be then accessible across sort of the ChatGPT network and infrastructure for others to learn from, and even actually recall some of your own information. So make sure you've got that leadership and sponsorship right from the start start, and you're setting out your strategy so everybody's clear about that, and you've got clear policies in place. Some of the best practice that we've seen is organisations creating like an AI council, representation right across the organisation and business to help them guide, measure and adopt the AI transformation. And it's an evolving thing. It will have to evolve with your business as you grow, as you see new use cases and new scenarios as well. The other key thing to consider in your success is that human change. You've got to manage and help your users to really fully embrace Copilot. As we've seen, there's some great use cases there. Traditionally, most people are using it to just gather information or ask a question, but there are so many more things that it actually can be utilized for. So it's really important that you give your users the ability to understand the art of the possible, share with them the use cases and scenarios. We'll share with you some of the Copilot labs that we've talked about. We'll talk about and share some of the Copilot scenarios as well, specific to their individual roles. Make sure that they understand what is possible and how they could be using Copilot within their role. And again, some of the best practice and where we've seen most success for this is where people are using the Copilot dashboard to really plan and measure the impact that the Copilot is having across their business. What are the key outcomes? And getting those little pilot groups together that are of people within the same department looking at specific functions, but are also wider across the business, where people have the opportunity to collaborate and share where they're seeing Copilot actually make an impact on their role that may be transferable across other departments. So it's really important that you manage and you get your team on board with this. And the third one I think is really the most important. As we see people starting to adopt Copilot, this bring your own AI to work, the technical readiness has taken a backseat for many organizations. And because of the pace of change in AI, we've just seen organizations start to use this and take off without taking a step back and thinking about the actual foundation of their business. So it's really, really important that, especially if you've started using AI and you know people are using tooling like ChatGPT, that you take a step back and make sure your data and your infrastructure is secure. You've got to make sure that you're assessing the risk. So as Sean mentioned, and as I alluded to as well, you could have agents placed on your HR data. But again, you need to look at making sure that your data is correctly tagged and labeled, that your SharePoint sites are properly set up and secure, that your document tagging is correct, that somebody can't share a document that has been labeled as confidential. So you've got to make sure that that infrastructure is in place to support you. Again, your data, is it in the right format? Where is it? Who has access to it? As we sort of transferred to remote working, the use of things like OneDrive increased exponentially, and there's potentially OneDrive files that you're still sharing access to that you shouldn't. Copilot will find that information, so it's really important that you take a step back and look at the data that's been shared right now, who has access to it, and making sure that your foundations are in a really good, strong place to allow you to introduce Copilot right across the business. As Sean mentioned, policies are really important, and what we can do as well is we can actually help you with an assessment to look at your AI readiness and start to highlight some of those things for you. So where is your security not quite right on access to SharePoint sites? What documents are not tagged? Where's your data? Who has access to it? So you've got to look at that assessment right at the start to understand where you are right now and the things that you need to change and introduce going forward, and start to think about creating that centre of excellence, a team of skilled resources that can act and share on the information that is coming, and can utilise tools, as Sean mentioned, like Purview, to really make sure that your foundations are secure and that you're set for the transformation that AI can actually bring to your business. So really, just to summarise and close off, how are you going to seize the opportunity? Start to really look at how you can help your employees. You want them to be in that top 60-70% where they're seeing significant advantage of using AI. You want to ensure that they've got a clear vision, a clear roadmap, and they know how to use it. So help them in terms of creating your little pilot groups. Think about the high value activities that your employees do day in, day out. What can we do to help reduce that workload, either individually by training them on what Copilot is capable of, or maybe maybe looking at an agent to help actually take some of that weight off and actually look at what they're doing and reinventing that process a little bit. We also need to look at that customer engagement piece. So how can you use AI to help really build the loyalty and boost the customer lifetime value? So all that really rich information that we're gathering from Teams calls, from Outlook, from the apps that we have in the business, how can we use that and actually then translate that and help our customers? We have organizations using agents on top of, say, for example, if they've got a service desk, to really help them understand the information that's coming through so they can in turn help their customers. So think about that. Where can you help this really help your customers? Because that's where you'll get a very significant and quick return. Think about as well all those business processes that you're doing. Where can you automate them and how can you really help optimize AI within the business? Those repetitive tasks, another one that's a really good example is when you need a new laptop. Traditionally in most businesses it goes to IT or to HR, to a manager. What if you had an agent where you could put that in and the agent just manage that process for you? Think about things like that, quick wins that you can help actually reshape some of the processes within your business, which will in turn help enrich your employees' experience as well. And start to think outside the box. How can we really use this to help you innovate and grow as a business? And if you think back to that strategy, if you have that strategy and you're clear on what that is, you can think about the now in the 12 to 18 month period, and then what does 5 years from now look like as well. And we're sitting helping businesses now. We can take some time with you and help you to go through that strategy piece. We can walk you through some of the scenarios. We can help you get those pilots underway, and we can show you the tooling that's available, like the Copilot dashboard, like Purview. But most importantly as well, we can help you with that AI readiness assessment in terms of how your data and infrastructure sits now, how you can make that much more secure and robust so you can innovate without having to worry about the foundational pieces, because they will all be in place. And that's really us for today. Thank you so much for joining myself and Sean. As I say, we'd love to hear more from you if there's anything that we can do to help. We do have a question and answer section now as well, so we'll take some time to go through any questions. Please feel free to pop them into the chat and we'll do our best to answer them as we go.